Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first ever episode of Fantasy Football with Coach. I'm your host, Coach, and thank you. I want to give a quick shout out to Joe for Refuse to Lose for inviting me to this to invite me to the network. He knows I'm a big football guy, and to sit here and talk fantasy football to the fans all day long, to do that. You know what I mean? We're gonna have a lot of fun this season. I love fantasy football. I'm going to start off just a little background. Now, when I when I first started fantasy football, man, this was back in, I was a late bloomer. I want to say, back in 2012, I think, 11, somewhere around there. Uh, Got in my first league. It was a Yahoo league. So it was my first time getting in fantasy football, first time dealing with a league. And it was with a bunch of people I knew, so that was cool. And it was a bunch of dudes I knew that, we played Madden. A bunch of my military fellas, man. We played Madden so much before we hopped over to the fantasy world. It was just Madden nonstop. I mean, I was king. It was no getting past me. There was nothing you could do. But it got so much, man. We would get bored and go from alphabetical order from one end and then start from the other end. And just basically that was our way of playing with random teams beating up on each other. And then, one day we all just hopped on a fantasy league together. They played before. It was my first year playing. And we're 9-3. 9-3. Now, mind you, I'm not sure what people use as their basis of information when they play fantasy football, but I read the reports. I don't pay attention to what happens on TV. I go to the computer, you know what I mean? I go to the articles, I go to the blogs, I go to the reports from people who are at the camps, who are in the locker rooms, who are around the players all the time. Those are the stuff that I read up on. Yeah, you can find them on ESPN's website, but the analysts that you have to listen to on TV, don't listen to what they say. Go look at the reports from the real reporters that are in the trenches with these players that know what's going on with them. But again, you don't have to be a football player as a reporter or ever had to play the sport to understand the game. If you understand the game, if you understand what these players' bodies go through, what coaches go through, what organizations go through, if you have an understanding of the game, you know football. You know what I mean? So to fast forward a little bit, I think it was the year Peyton Manning was with the Broncos, not the bad year. It was the year he was out here. I think he broke the record, broke the NFL record. Now, mind you, I didn't have Peyton Manning, but I want to say Eric Decker was one of his receivers. I had his receiver. But then, I don't remember who his other receiver was. I don't want to say Julian Edelman. I want to and I don't want to. But I know he had two receivers. And somehow in that same year, I ended up with both of them on the team. Because why? One of them was on the waiver wire. It's just then why he was on the waiver wire and nobody wanted him. Because again, coach sees things, one as a coach, two as a fan, as a football fanatic. I see other things as well. So I see things on the field aspect, and when I see the numbers, they talk to me in a way that I don't think most people listen to when they look at the numbers. There was no reason he should have been on anybody's bench, and because he was on my starting roster with his counterpart, because why? They were both eating Peyton Manning. I think at one point there was an 8-game stretch where both receivers averaged 100 yards a game. Like, why would you not want that on your team? And they averaged a touchdown a game. So I had both of them on my roster as my starting receivers, and I just had another starter in my flex. Like, you gotta know what the numbers are telling you. Target share, who's throwing the football, who are they going up against defensively? Is that corners? Is the secondary a bad secondary, an average secondary, but they got some good pieces that the coach can work around? Like, for instance, in fantasy football, never use an offense that has to play against the Bill Belichick defense. You're not going to get the numbers you want, not all the time. It's a little tidbits like that are things that I've always followed. I always look for a rookie running back in every draft. I'm not sure this year because with the state of the running back nature right now, it's changing. The NFL is changing, and maybe if you're playing in a standard league, running back can still be how you proceed with your draft. But if you're playing PPR, where targets and catches are basically taking over on how people are getting points, you this year, I don't know, you might want to go receiver, running back, receiver, quarterback, tight end if it's Mahomes and Kelsey. It's just the NFL is changing, so there's a pattern you would want to follow so that you're never behind in fantasy. If you stay in the old, not the old ways, if you stay in your old ways and you don't change your ways based on what you know you see, you're never winning fantasy. You're always going to stay behind. You're always playing catch up. What you want to do is stay ahead of what the system is doing. Okay. What are we doing now? We're going to a pass heavy system. Stay ahead of that. So what does that mean? If you paid attention last year, I think over 21 wide receivers had over 1,000 yards. Now, granted, we all know what coach think about a receiver with 1,000 yards. That's nothing, but this is fantasy, okay? What that means is it doesn't mean that still doesn't mean that the receiver had a great year, but to know that 21 wide receivers last year had over 1,000 yards, that means it's a pass heavy league. That's what it means. So you might want to lock in, the best wide receivers, and you might want to know who those tier group wide receivers are that can scramble you some 15 points, some garbage time points, or second to the number one receiver that does get his target share. For instance, it should have been Gabe Davis for the Bills last year. What we didn't know and what people who drafted him had to deal with was he was banged up all doggone year. So where was he most of the time? Either in your lineup getting a dub or on your bench getting a dub. More like 11, 12 points because you're 20, but you had him on your bench. You have to deal with those headaches in fantasy. But that's why I always say it doesn't bother me if I have Gabe Davis on my point for 20, if I have him on my bench for 20. If put him there because I didn't trust him and I put somebody else in the spot, not hoping for 20, but hoping for 10, I get 15. Okay. Did I win the game? Probably not. But what that tells me is I have another avenue to go to if I just don't trust Gabe Davis. That guy he may have 15 this week. He could probably drop 25. Now, if I've looked at his weeks prior and 5, 3 points, 8 points here, 10 points, that's what I'm like. I might not use you again next week. However, if that 5 started in week 1 and by week 4, that 5 jumped to 12, and it's week 6, 7 right now, and you're like, either in between that 20, I'm gonna grab you. You have potential to put up really good numbers in fantasy football based on what the progression looks like. And if you're watching the games and you see what that player is doing in the game, he's getting away from players. They can't touch him. It's just now maybe he's young and maybe this was his breakout year. And now we're starting to see it. It takes time. You can't expect these players in the first 4 weeks. But I tell people in fantasy football, if you play fantasy football in the first 4 weeks, expect losses. Don't expect to be 4-0. If you're 4-0 in the first 4 weeks of fantasy football, either you had one hell of a draft or your players just hit. You're gambling in fantasy football. Always remember that. It's a gamble. Okay? The same way it's a gamble when you put 11 men against another 11 men on the field. It's a gamble. Same way it's 5-on-5 in basketball. It's all a gamble. So you have to make sure you're making the right gamble. But are you taking the right risks? Or are you avoiding what you believe is a good risk and not taking that loss? In avoiding players, like I've always avoided Zeke. Yep, we coming for Zeke in this fantasy football segment. I don't care. We coming for Zeke. I've never trusted Zeke. He's 1,600 yards his rookie season. I didn't his rookie season. Somebody else drafted him. That's fine. Guess what? Guess who won that year? I did. So I didn't need. I didn't need him. And then following year, didn't need him as well. And then he was banged up. But guess who I had? Nick Chubb. Yes. So I didn't need Zeke. And then where was he the following year? Where people were stressed out about what he gonna do, in which he did nothing. Because why? He held out for all that money the third year, I believe, and then wouldn't do nothing. I still had Nick Chubb again. They even had Melvin Gordon, I think, that year. It's a pretty good running back core. You know what I mean? And the following, and I think that's the year Calvin Cook was hurt, and I swept that league because he was hurt. Buddy had Zeke, couldn't do nothing because both the running backs didn't do anything for him that year. And I just swept through the league. I did lose that year to my son. Mine had Tyler Boyd on his squad that year. He had a really good squad. I did help draft. That too. Like I can draft 4 different teams at one time and still get everybody I want. Nobody looks for the people I want. Nobody has needs. See, nobody has these. Okay. I know how to use these. I hit that waiver wire hard, man. Hard. If I know what the team is capable of and I know what their plan to, you can look at a game and see what their plan is. Okay. Is it gonna work? Is this just a rough right now and it's gonna pick up? That's what fantasy. That's the stuff you have to judge when you're fishing through waiver wires. Handcuffing, is handcuffing necessary? Look, if you have a good draft and you have backups already, what do you need a handcuff for? Just because one running back on that team is great doesn't mean his backup is going to come in and do the exact same work. Okay, look beyond that. Look beyond a handcuff and put your risk into these rookies. Put your risk into the rookies. I promise you, man. You will have. I tell you what. Your decisions of cutting and dropping will come quite faster with a rookie than it will with a handcuff. That handcuff, you're gonna have to go. You have to waste a roster spot for someone on your roster that you hope can play if his starter get hurt. Like, why would you want to do that? When you can actually sit and suffer through 4 weeks of a rookie getting his ass beat up against the defensive line and then break through in week 5, and now you got a running back for the rest of the season as a rookie. I mean, it's risk reward. You got to know when to take them. So look, this fantasy show that we're gonna have for you guys here today, Coach is gonna put you on game on all this stuff. I win fantasy football games. I went from the 8-man leagues to 10-man leagues. 12-man leagues are very fun. If you like the competitive nature, do a 10-man league. I wouldn't do 10-man standard league. I know I kind of get on PPR a little bit, but standard league, 8-man, 10-man. But if you're going up to 12, 16-man leagues, do PPR. You're gonna need those waiver wire numbers for the catches. They're basically you're gonna have a load of receivers. And when you go in that 12, 14 teams, you got to know which ones to get. Don't get me wrong. The coach is going to help you fish through all of that nonsense. I'm going to help you fish through all the noise. I'm going to help you pick the right players for your teams. I'm going to help you strategize properly. If you guys win, coach wins. It's that simple. It's that simple. I'm not here to make you guys. I'm not even playing. Think about that. Coach ain't even playing this year. I don't think I'm going to play ever again. I don't see the point. If I can sit here every year and just feed you guys all of my knowledge and help you guys win fantasy football games, I have no need to play. I'm playing through all of y'all. I'm getting your complaints. I'm going to get you kind of crap you told me to play. Hey, it's going to happen. I'm going to have to deal with it, right? And then I'm going to be happily sitting here when I'm told, Coach, that was the best advice you ever gave me. It's going to happen. That's what comes with fantasy football. Coach only gets his advice from a few sources, all right? Listen, Channel 87 on Sirius XM Radio. That's pretty much it. Pretty much it. Everything on there is everything I need that talks about fantasy. I listen to every individual show that they have. Even I even listen to Ratcliffe's show. I'm not big on him when he talks about players, but he talks numbers beautifully to me, like statistical numbers. I can follow his brand when he's dealing with those. When he starts talking about players, kind of like don't agree with him, and it's okay. Don't agree with everybody. Everybody doesn't agree with me. He says some things that are smart. He says some things that are like, what? Tell me, Coach, don't do that. So look, I know though, when I listen to them and I listen to Channel 87, they're going to give me everything I need to give you guys all the good information. Why do I say Channel 87? Because I think the way they do. I don't think the way ESPN does. These guys give you the real nature of fantasy football. They give you the ins and outs. They give you everything you need to know about a player, dual quarterbacks, breakout receivers, who they expect to be that guy. They go so in depth to talk about those nickel corners, what receivers are coming up against those nickel corners and what that player should do, and how spectacular that player should do in the game based on who that defensive they're playing. They get down to player assignments. So I listen to everything that they give out so that I can have the best information. They've never let me down, point blank. Hopefully soon maybe when the season starts, we'll get into some. And we'll see. I want to get into some betting, but we'll see how that kind of works out. Right now, I know we're doing more so the fantasy. If there's more requests, I would say we may get into betting segments. That's a little bit more research, but Coach will get it done for you. Don't worry. I have no problem telling you who's going to win a game and who's going to lose a game. All right, that's not an issue for me. I predict games every week. That's what Coach loves to do. So I have no problem with doing that. But I want you guys to know when you guys talk to Coach, when you guys go to the Refuse to Lose chat and go through those chats and see what Coach is posting. Coach is posting everything you need to know and listen to as it pertains to fantasy football and winning. Yes, I'm not a big person on trading, but it's part of fantasy football. So if the trade is a good trade or if players should be sold high, sold low, I'm going to give you that information. I'm not hiding anything from you except for kickers and defenses. Guys, let me say, okay, we're going to get this out the water now, all right? Because the first question I get about a defense, folks might lose it. Listen. There is no way in heck. I don't care if they're the number one defense. I don't. I really don't. There's no way you need to be drafting the defense if it's not one of your last two picks. Your last three picks should be defense, kicker, backup quarterback. You need two quarterbacks, backup quarterback. That's what your last three picks should be. You should not pick a defense so early. Just think about it this way. You pick that number one, they're slated to be the number one defense, and you draft them, right? And then they come out in the first 5 weeks and look like doo-doo, and you get nothing but 3 points. See what I'm saying? And somebody else who drafted the Bears defense because of who they're playing based on their schedule, they whipped your ass, and the Bears ended up with 20 points because they got 3 turnovers. Look, defenses are going to be defenses, whether you're number one or number two. I never lost fantasy football championships because I didn't have the number one defense. No. You know why I've lost fantasy championships? Only my running backs. Sometimes, depending on who they are, Dalvin Cook, they don't last the season. Melvin Gordon, they don't last the season. They start off hot. Within the last 3 weeks, we dealing with dings and nicks, and they don't finish games. Your points looking like booty. You know, it happens. That's fantasy, baby. Got to deal with those. But at the same time, for at least for 12, 14 weeks, they gave me what I wanted, right? You got to take those L's when they come just the same way you rub the wins in their face, all right? It's a part of the game, and it's a part of the nature of fantasy, okay? We're basically wishfully guessing what we're expecting somebody to do based on what their statistical numbers are in their career. That's out. That's it. That's all we're doing. So if we're making the right decisions based on that, we're winning fantasy football games. However, if somebody else made the right decisions too, by 1 point, they're going to beat you. It's fantasy, baby. We got to take those. We got to, all right? All right, so what I want to get into today, we're going to get into the positions. We're going to talk about the positions. I've got everybody laid out. We're going to basically talk about position rankings. Let's see here. Where are? Give me 1 second. Coach got a couple of these. Is this the one? All right. So we're gonna get into rankings for fantasy football. Right. Okay. So when I rank my players, and I'm just this is something that I've been doing. I guess since kind of I guess I would say for the past 4 or 5 years I've been doing this. Right, I get my notebook. I will go for last year's stats. Off of last year's stats, what I'm looking for is maybe what the player did. Right, what was their stats at the end of the year, coming into this year for fantasy. So if we go down the line, we start with where we at? 2022. Where is the season though? I need the season. Okay, here we go. All right, so what we have here is what I do is I don't rank everybody from, I don't put all the positions. I put everybody's position together. So I put quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, tight ends. I do tight ends, yes, I do. Again, only positions I don't really need to critique are defenses and kickers. They're self-explanatory. They're, in a sense, for me, if you pick the defense that, since everybody likes to go for what they believe is the top tier defenses, I mean, there's 32 teams, right? There's 32 teams. I'm just gonna grab a defense. Why? Because I know for a fact before week 1 starts, I'm gonna drop him. Why? Because when I look at who this person is playing that I'm gonna go up against, I'm not putting my defense up against that. I only picked the defense because I needed to pick one. But what I'm gonna do is drop him, hit that waiver wire, and defense who is expected to have a good game against a probably a terrible type of offense. So probably if a person wants to meet me with the Bills, guess what? I'm picking any defense that's playing against the Giants offense or something. Oh, no, the Cardinals offense. Any defense that has the Cardinal. So I'm going to be flip-flopping defenses out of 17 weeks. Why? Because I want every defense that has to go up against the Cardinals because they're going to be garbage this year. They're not putting up anything, okay? You're going to turn the ball, that defense, whatever defense is playing the Cardinals, is having like 2 picks that game probably and a touchdown. I want that defense. I don't care what defense it is. I don't care if it's on the Rams defense. When they play against the Cardinals, I want the Rams. I want anybody's defense that's playing against the Cardinals this year. That's what I'm doing. So when I draft the defense, I'm just drafting one. I'm just picking one that's ranked high on what's based off what's left because I don't care because that's not who's playing against the Cardinals. Unless go ahead and just grab that defense that's available playing against the Cardinals week 1. Yeah, I'll do that. But there's no need for me to fish for a great defense when I need points. That great defense ain't going to give you points. Pay attention to this. You have the Bills defense, and for 4 quarters, that team couldn't score. But then they didn't get any turnovers. All they did was force punts. So all they're going to do is max out at 10 or 8 points. Like, really? They wasted a high draft pick, round 10, 11, drafting the Buffalo Bills defense when I could have grabbed the 49ers with my last pick. It's just, I'm not saying the 49ers defense is bad. It's just, I don't want that number 1 defense with one of my picks. Like, if somebody really needs that defense that bad, that means their roster ain't doing too high. Or they're really chasing something that they're not going to get. Never chase a defense for points. Please don't. A defense does not make or break you. A defense can put you over, don't get me wrong, but it's not going to make or break your wins and losses. Half the time, you look through 10 teams that are playing, 3 of them may have a defense that scored maybe 20, 15 points, and they still lost. Why? Because the quarterback had 11. So, look, don't waste your time on defenses so early, all right? Now, one thing I do, again, I go through every position. I go through the players, and we got basically right now we're starting with the quarterback position. And what I like to do is I color coordinate everything. I give you a green, and what I do for the color coordinating is basically how I'm looking at you for next year. So I look at your 22, how you ended your season in the year 22. For instance, Patrick Mahomes, 435 completions, 648 attempts, 67%. Honestly, that's lower than he's ever been. He's usually in the 70s, but he's the highest by the way, no, I take that back. Justin Herbert is the highest at 68%. Nope. Line again. Geno Smith is the highest at 69. Again, that's the highest, and usually the highest is in the 70s. That defense is balled out this year, so we always have to take into account. But what numbers we see this year is because what the defense did the same year, all right? But all in all, he had 5,200 yards, 41 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. So for me, anything under 15 gives you a blue. Anything under 10 interceptions gets you a green. For touchdowns, anything in the 40s gets you a green. Anything in the 30s gets you a blue. And anything under 30 gets you in the red. All right. So, and for Josh Allen, 43 for me, that's a blue. He had, for me, 4,500 yards gets you a green. 45 and up gets you the green. Anything below 45, it puts you in the blue average. And it's not like an average that makes you bad. It's my color coordination for grouping. So for my green players, I have Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, and Justin Herbert. Why? Justin had 4,700 yards. Joe Burrow had 45. Patrick had 52. 67% completion rate. Joe Burrow had 68. Justin Herbert 68. And both of their completion to attention ratios were green statuses. So they all across the board, they get the green. Now, here is where Justin Herbert has a red, but because he has so much green, I keep him in the green tier. But I can let arguments drop him to blue. He only had 25 touchdowns for 10 interceptions. He only had 25. All right. So he's blue in interceptions. He's red for touchdowns. 25 touchdowns is horrible. They had a horrible year scoring in the end zone. All right. Well, look, I have him in the green based off his completion and percentage ratio and his yardage. Again, if somebody wants to fight to drop him to the blue, that not going to phase me whatsoever. I do have Josh Allen in the blue, Jalen Hurts in the blue, Geno Smith, Kirk Cousins, Trevor Lawrence, Jared Goff, Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson, Tua Tagovailoa, and Russell Wilson. These players are all blue because they are 35 yards and up in yards in passing, and their completion ratio is 64% and up. So they are in the blue status. Now, Jalen Hurts is blue, but he has a completion ratio of red. That doesn't bother me. All that means is they don't pass. It's like they're a run first team. So his completion ratio being 306, his attempts being 460. It's okay, 66%. I just wish I would want the completion ratio to be higher. But what that means is that doesn't mean 66%. It's not a lot of drops. It's just not that many attempts. Not let me take that back. The attempts are there, the completions aren't, because of course you had, for instance, you have stuff like Jalen Rager, not Jalen Rager, Devontae Smith catching it, but that ref calling it out of bounds when it looked like it was in bounds. It's stuff like kind of like that where your completion ratio is down, because you didn't really see the Eagles have too many just blown passes like that. You know what I mean? They were more so, I would say, controversial in a way. Because you give him 50 of those passes that came back from holding, penalty. It's stuff like that, right? Because again, his attempts are up there. He threw 460 times, 306 completed. There's a lot that can go in there, but you got to think it's not that bad if he's throwing for 3,700 yards and rushing for 760. Okay, two touchdowns could have been higher, 22, but he only had 6 interceptions. So I do like that touchdown to interception ratio. But again, let's all remember defenses this year balled out, and across the entire board, touchdowns were low outside Patrick Mahomes. I want to say he's the only one in the 40s for touchdowns. Now, this doesn't mean I'm ranking them in that way. This is just what I'm kind of like. I'm giving myself a blueprint for how I want to rank them. Now, how did I rank quarterbacks coming into this year? Let's see here. Where are we at? Quarterback tiers. So what I have is I have Patrick Mahomes in tier group 1. I have Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Jalen Hurts. Why do I have these three? Now, Patrick Mahomes' rushing touchdown, like rushing yards, may not be up there with Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts. However, Patrick Mahomes' rushing touchdowns are there. As a quarterback in the goal line, he's rushing for a touchdown. It's just one of those. I hate to say a gimme, but with Patrick Mahomes, though his yardages aren't there, he does give you a touchdown in the red zone on a very consistent basis. So to get to because the team they move the rock. They don't have to score with their quarterback 40 yards out like most of the teams do, or want to take over and do it like Josh Allen. Okay. And of course, Josh Allen is at number 2 because he had 776 rushing yards as a quarterback. So with 4,500, 4,300 passing yards. Also, dual threat behind Patrick Mahomes, and I think he had more rushing touchdowns, but I'm not putting up about Patrick Mahomes. No, not over 5,200 yards. It's not going to happen. Now, Jalen Hurts to me falls in at number 3 because his numbers are just right there below. But as a dual threat quarterback, these are your top 3 based off of what they can do with their legs. I did drop Lamar Jackson out of this tier because I do expect his passes to pick up and his rushing numbers to drop. Not tremendously, but let me see. Lamar Jackson, he had 764 rushing yards. I do believe he will have Patrick Mahomes numbers, which would be around 358, 400 yards rushing. Maybe even not that much. But passing, he could be in. I think he'll have 4,200 yards passing with the receiving core that they have. So that just puts them in the tier group because I don't think he will be as a dual threat quarterback as he was prior, where I would have had him in that top tier group. Joe Burrow is in that same tier group 2 with Lamar Jackson. I have Justin Fields in tier group 2. simply because he did rush for over 1,100 yards as a quarterback. Um, and he threw for 2,200 yards as a quarterback, so he still put up some decent yards. And maybe he's thinking if he subtracts that 1,000 of those yards. So I don't know what his numbers are. He ain't throwing for no 4,000 yards. The Bears, I've never known a Bears quarterback to ever put up numbers that way. The Bears aren't made to put up that kind of passing numbers. It's just not going to happen. But I am going to leave him in tier group 2 because I do think he will be a decent dual threat quarterback this year. I'm actually a little higher on him this year than I have been. I think they're going to build what they need around him to make him successful, which is fine by me. I have Justin Herbert in the same tier group with and as well as Trevor Lawrence. They don't run as much; they do more passing. So basically, they are your Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields, Justin Herbert, and Trevor Lawrence. That group is your third round draft pick. If you're looking for a quarterback, but you don't want to draft high for a Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, or Jalen Hurts, wait for the third, fourth round where you can get you a Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence. Even Justin Fields might even fall to the fifth, sixth round, and you might still be good grabbing him there. Tier group 3, we're looking at Dak Prescott, Deshaun Watson, Tua Tagovailoa, Daniel Jones, Kirk Cousins, Geno Smith, Aaron Rodgers, and Jared Goff. Jared Goff, I'm gonna tell you why I have him in this group. A lot of people may not agree with it, but if my numbers are correct, Jared Goff had 4,400 passing yards with that offense that he had with the Detroit Lions. He had 29 touchdowns. I mean, he was a touchdown shy of 30. He only had 7 interceptions. He played good football. He's 65% completion. Jared Goff played good football, guys. I know people beat up on him. There's more to the Detroit Lions than Jared Goff. I don't think they're a Super Bowl or a playoff contending team with Jared Goff. But if you're looking for a quarterback in that tier group 3, Jared Goff is your guy. 4,400 yards, and I think he could put up the same. He's got the same type of receivers. He's got a younger running back, so he's got a nice little escape player. So I think the Detroit Lions, like I said, I don't think they're going to be some ball crazy team. They're going to be average at best. They're in a weak division. They're in the NFC doesn't look strong at all. But if you're looking for a quarterback again for fantasy football, looking for a quarterback in that 5th, 6th round, Jared Goff could be your guy. All right. Tier group 4, that's where we drop down to, Russell Wilson, Derek Carr, Matthew Stafford, and Kyler Murray. Good or tier 4, I don't know. But you know what? Guess what? Because this is my show. We can do things, right? We are taking Kyler Murray out of this. He is not going to be in tier group 4. We're going to drop him to tier group 5, and we are going to move up. Let's move up CJ Stroud. We are going to move up Texans quarterback CJ Stroud to tier 4. That's what we're going to do. And we got Bryce Young, Kenny Pickett, Jordan Love, and that'll be tier group 4. So again, Russell Wilson, Derek Carr, Matthew Stafford, Anthony Richardson. We're dropping Kyler Murray, and we are adding CJ Stroud, Jordan Love, Kenny Pickett, and Bryce Young. That is your tier group 4. I have my rookies in tier group 4. I'm not high on any of them this year. Just because a lot of it is based off where they went. I don't think any of them those rookies have a shot at being great this year. Nothing, just where they are. If it is one by any chance, it could be CJ Stroud or Bryce Young, just by sheer skill and will to win. It's got to be in that nature. But outside of that, as a team, I don't see neither of them doing great with their team, which is, again, no fault to them. It's just why I have them in tier group 4. I don't think they're going to put up big numbers. I think you're going to get the most out of them is, 15, 12 points, unless they have some big games here and there. But you're not going to get much out of that. And our last tier group for quarterbacks, we have Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance, instead of CJ Stroud, we now have Kyler Murray. We have Ryan Tannehill, Desmond Ridder, Sam Howell, Brock Purdy, Baker Mayfield, Will Levis, and Jacoby Brissett. So we got Trey Lance and Brock Purdy in the same tier group because one of them can't go up because I don't know who's I don't I really don't know who to tell you to pick from here because I guess when we find out through training camp who the official starter is, we can find them an official tier group. But right now, since they got both of them out there, like they both gonna play, I'm gonna keep them both in tier group 5. So that right there is our quarterback tier, and we can now move on to our running back ranking and tier. This one is these running backs. There's a lot. It's sad because there's a lot of running backs. But man, some of these names you're gonna hear like I'm not sure what you're gonna do with. Started. So tier group 1, we have dual threat himself, Christian McCaffrey. We have Jonathan Taylor. However, due to what is happening right now in the media, until I see, I'll be honest with you, Jonathan Taylor is not happy with his organization. I don't know what that's going to do for him on the field. Like these sideline photos of him looking unhappy. And don't get me wrong, I'm for him, but I mean, we're talking fantasy here. Like, I don't know if I can keep Jonathan Taylor at number 2 right now. Because is he going to be your number 2? Is he going to be your running back drafting, or is he just not going to really want to play football? Do you want that guy right now? So for now, based on this show and how we got to get things moving and started, we're dropping Jonathan Taylor. We're going to drop him out of tier group 1. We're going to put him in tier group 2 right now. And Bijan Robinson is going to move up. He's going to move up to tier group 1. So tier group 1, we have Christian McCaffrey at 1. Now we have Nick Chubb at 2, Austin Eckler at 3, at 4, and now Bijan Robinson at 5. Look, Saquon moved up and he stays in the top 5 because what he did was he signed his contract. Whether he likes it or not, one thing that the Giants know is they get to get ready to play football. They're their running back. They're going to have their team. I don't know how they're going to be. But they have everything. They're not worried about anything right now. They got what they can do so they can get to work. To me, buddy, you move up. You stay in the top 5 and you stay in that top tier group because you're ready to go to work. Josh Jacobs, I have him in tier group 2. He has not reported yet. Right now, Josh Jacobs is going to move down to tier group 2. I don't know if we have any word on Dalvin Cook to the Jets. We'll have to see what happens with that. And what that means is if Dalvin Cook is going to the Jets, they're not worried about Breece Hall. What that means to me is I don't think week 1, or if he is, he's sharing the rock. So Breece Hall is going to stay in tier group 3. However, ding, 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 ding. Somebody who I have been paying attention to last couple of years is moving up today, tier group 2. I was waiting for the show to see if I would move him up or not. And yes, they are getting moved up. We are going to move up Najee Harris to tier group 2. We're going to move down Josh Jacobs to tier group 3. So in tier group 2, we have Bijan. No, I apologize. We have Derrick Henry, Tony Pollard. Let's see here. Jonathan Taylor. Let's see here. That's it. That's all we're doing for tier group 2. Tier group 3 is Breece Hall, Ramondre Stevenson. Oh no, I'm sorry. In tier group 2, again, we moved up Najee Harrison. So we moved down Josh Jacobs to tier group 3. Breece Hall is tier group 3. Ramondre Stevenson is tier group 3. Kenneth Walker is tier group 3. I keep Kenneth Walker in tier group 3 because they're going to keep more than one back in Seattle. They've always have. He is going to be their main guy, but I'll be honest with you, you're going to be mad drafting Kenneth Walker because he's going to get garbage time touchdowns taken away from him. And he's not going to give you the points you're expecting. It's not going to be his fault. It's just because I think the Seattle Seahawks this year are going to come out pretty well rounded. For instance, my guy got to have a year or I'm done. Metcalf, this is you, sir. Your quarterback threw for 4,400 yards, and you barely scratched 1,000 yards, if that. We need to do better, Metcalf. Don't worry, when we get to the receivers, we're going to get on you. But as a whole, I think the Seahawks are going to be a lot. I don't think they're going to drop. I don't think last year Geno was a fluke. I don't think so at all. Just saw what Geno was wanting to do the year Russell Wilson went out. And one thing I was excited about is I saw it immediately when Geno came in. The Metcalf ball to Metcalf. Like they lost 2 games because one, the last touchdown didn't go in. Two, he turned it over on the last touchdown. Chemistry. Chemistry is an easy reason for teams to lose a game. He wasn't ready, and that's fine. Because look what they did when they came out there next season, bro. They were ready to go. Y'all didn't see the Seahawks come out. Seahawks coming like this. Pete Carroll said we got 2 number 1 quarterbacks. I said, boy, if you don't stop lying, and then look what Geno came out and did. Come on, man. We got to respect that man for what he has been doing, and we can't look at it like, oh, that's it for Geno. No, why? Who said that? No, let's not look at this 1 year as just that. Let's say this. What if this is Geno? What if 4,500 yards is this man's average? His numbers are identical. Identical to that of overpaid. You heard me, and I'm gonna say it till I die. Overpaid. He ain't winning no Super Bowl no time soon. You got Aaron Rodgers coming in, messing everything up. Lamar Jackson getting paid into the AFC Championship game. Come on, bro. I don't know what y'all thought. He got paid. Okay, look. Josh Allen got paid in a loss to Patrick Mahomes because they put up a lot of points. Stop it. Stop. Because he has shown you so far that he can't win a playoff game outside of the second round. Like, come on, bro. What are we doing? He made it to 1 AFC, 2 and lost. He won't get past the Bengals if he got to deal with them because they handle him. What you see. I'm sorry. They are what you see. They might just be, the 2.0 version of what it was when they had Fitzpatrick. They were winning, but they just couldn't finish. Sometimes, look, Josh Allen got a lot of money, and he turns the ball over twice a game. Really? That's supposed to. His numbers are impressive, but what I'm expecting is not impressive. If that makes sense, okay? What I'm expecting to come from all of this is not impressing me. Okay, that's just you. It was all put together for a reason, right? You paid him that money for a reason, right? Did you pay him $286 million that year you paid him so that he can win you a Super Bowl in 10 years? Come on, let's be real. No, that is not what you paid him all that money for. You paid him that money because that game that was displayed against Patrick Mahomes, and we got this next year. That's what happened. And you didn't have it next year. No, y'all better have had a running game that following year. Come on. So. But let's get back to these tier groups. So, again, tier group 3, we have Breece Hall, Ramondre Stevenson, Kenneth Walker, Travis Etienne, J.K. Dobbins, Josh Jacobs. And right now, I'm going to keep Dalvin Cook there. He is one of the ones, him and Zeke, right now, look like they're actively looking for teams, or teams are actively looking at them. So right now, there's no need to top them, because if they do get picked up by any of these teams, I think wherever I have them, except for Zeke may just, depending on where he goes, I could bump him up depending on where he goes. But Dalvin Cook right now will stay in tier group 4 because no matter where he goes, he's sharing the rock. He's not going to be the lead back. But Dalvin Cook can be a good flex player or a good player for bye weeks. All right, tier group 4, we have Aaron Jones, Jamar Gibbs. Now, do I think Jamar Gibbs for Detroit Lions is going to have a really big year? He's a rookie. They're going to feed him the rock. They're going to bleed him dry. He should, as long as he doesn't get hurt, he should do great. Why do I have him in tier group 4? He's a rookie. I'm not going to put a rookie up there above all of these other proven players. This is not going to happen. What that just means is, if you want to steal him early, he's available. He's going to be available. If you wait, he might be available. That's just a good steal for you. Again, you draft the players of what you want based on the information I give you, and just you have to know what the best value is to you. I'm going to tell you what I believe their best value is, but you do not have to agree with that. You draft that player based on where you believe their value is. If you believe Jamar Gibbs' value is a second-round pick, that's a risk, right? What will that risk get you? It will most likely get you a beautiful reward if it works out. So again, I keep him in tier group 4 just because he's a rookie, unproven, and we will see what he does. And if you have him on your team because you drafted him where you drafted him, you got to be happy. You got to be happy. Is it a steal in the 3rd round, 2nd round? I think so. I think if you don't wait, you don't have to wait for the 4th. Depending on what the tier group round is, I'm not sure which round tier group 4 will be in. Because again, you got tier groups for every position. Tier group 1 for quarterbacks, running backs, wide receiver, all those players are tier group 1, just separated by their position. Um, and most likely tier group 1 players aren't going to be drafted in, well, then we'll hold off on that. So now we move down to tier group 5. Nope. Tier group 4. We finished tier group 4. We got Aaron Jones, Jamar Gibbs, Miles Sanders, Cam Akers, Joe Mixon, Damian Pierce, James Conner, Isaiah Pacheco, and David Montgomery. Damian Pierce in that tier group 4 still, only because I wanted to see a little bit more out of him last year. I think I liked what I saw. Still think I got more than I wanted. And so I'm not gonna rank him higher when I did get more from others. You know what? Don't get me wrong. If you feel that David Pierce is a tier group 3 kind of guy, look here, I can swap him out for Ramondre Stevenson. I can swap him out for Travis Etienne, to be quite honest with you. There's no ill to him in that tier group, because I don't think I have him low in drafts, if that makes sense. These tier groups are just based off collectively, but these players mirror each other in a sense. However, Damian Pierce is a player who also mirrors players in that 3rd tier. That's all it means. All right, tier group 5, we have Rachaad White, DeAndre Swift. I dropped him in tier 5, and I don't think I'm gonna raise DeAndre Swift because he's gonna be sharing the rock in Philly. They are the number 1 rushing offense. Not the fact that they have the number 1 rushing offensive line. They have the number 1 rushing offense, meaning Hurst and whoever a running back is behind that offensive line, all moving the ball. So because of that reason, he's sharing the rock on so many levels. But what I do believe is he is going to be a pass catcher. So getting DeAndre Swift later in rounds will be beneficial if you're looking for a good flex spot. Excuse me, a good flex player. Javonte Williams. All right, so I have Javonte Williams still in tier group 5 because that injury, we don't really know how he's going to look from the injury. So it's I get it. Breece Hall is higher, and he had an injury, but Breece Hall was tearing it up. So was Dave. I'm not David. So was Javonte Williams, but Denver. I don't know. They didn't go full throttle on running. It was still a lot of mix of passing and sharing the rock as well. So I don't know. They made him a lead back. He got hurt. Can he handle that kind of role? I don't know. And I don't know if they're going to give him that role now due to the fact that they're trying to win games based off last year and how they ended last year. Sean Payton, if he can work the running back the way he worked Alvin Kamara with the quarterback, that's what he's looking for, right? That's the kind of running back he's looking for. It could be Javonte Williams. It could not be. We don't know. So right now, I'm keeping him in tier group 5. Ryan Robinson, Khalil Herbert, Alvin Kamara, James Cook, A.J. Dillon, Rashad Penny, Jamal Williams, Damian Harris, Tyler Algier, Elijah Mitchell, and Alexander Madison. These are all tier group 5 running backs. I get it. Alexander Madison is going to be the lead back for the Minnesota Vikings. You were handed the job because the starter got cut. You know what I mean? You didn't win it. It was given to you, and it was like, yeah, he's our guy because he knows the offense. He's been here. He knows what to do. We love his progression. It's all the right things type of thing. So that to me doesn't impress me enough to bolster you up in a tier group. No, you can stay right there in 5. And I don't Alexander Madison, I'm looking at on an average, 75 yards a game. 75 yards. See, a lot of you guys tear me a new one when I come for players based on their yards. It's like, okay, I know me and Carl had a discussion one time. But I told him it didn't impress me that a rookie had 1,100 yards. When I've seen rookies have 1,600 yards, easy, right? I ripped the the other day because what have you done for me lately? But again, I'm not going to rip his rookie season. He had an amazing rookie season, but he had 1,600 rushing yards. How do you get that? Dude, you average 90 yards a game. That's amazing. Any running back averages 80-plus yards a game, to me, is excellent. They're above average. They are great. Okay. If you're averaging 60 yards a game, you're good. You're not sucky. You're not bad. 60 yards, you got 60 yards a game. You suck if all you can average out of 17 carries is 30 yards. That sucks. You're trash. You understand what I'm telling you? I mean, but you ain't gonna get but like 700 yards out the season. But 60 yards a game, 70 yards a game, I mean, that's good. That's 1,100. That's good. That's good. But see, those boys that got 80 yards a game, that's great. Why? Because that puts them in the caliber of between 13 to 16, 1,800 yards a game for the season. So that's when I look at a running back, they only had 1,100 yards. That means you only average like 60, 50 yards a game, which means you only average like, what, 2 to 3 yards a carry? That doesn't do anything for me. But if you had 17, 16, 1,500 yards a game, 1,400 yards a game, 1,300 yards a game, that means not a game, sorry, a season, that means you average between 80 to 100 yards a game. That was your average. You're above average when you do that, okay? Period. It's just you are the best when you do that because your numbers are going to show that. And now, mind you, yeah, you have those games where a running back does put up 200 yards in a game. But again, we are looking at the average. When you go and look at that player and you look at every game he had, what are the numbers you're going to see besides that one game of 200? What are you going to see? 85, 83, 72, 94, 95, 115, 84, 86, 94, 100. That's what I'm saying. You see where the average is? The average is between 80 to 100. He only had one game below 80, and that was 70-something yards. So that means he had a good game that game. That must mean he had to play up against a great defense probably and still put up 70 yards. That's what it is. But, bruh, if you're playing against an average defense, the Bears, and all you can come up with is 70 yards, that's not good. I don't think that's good. I really don't. Because you could do better. It's the Bears. You're not sitting there doing nothing bad to you. Your offensive line suck. Okay, that could be a hindrance. That could be a hindrance to you why you can't get loose. It always is, okay? But then when everything works for you and you still can't, buddy, we got to figure out it's you. It's you, okay? It's you. So look, when you guys hear me come at a player because he only did this, it's because, bro, on a grand scale, if you minimize it, you only did this much in the game. So why am I going to be impressed by somebody putting up 50 yards? A running back getting away can put up 50 yards in the game. So why should I be impressed at a running back who carried the ball? He was handed the ball 17 to 25 times. And you want me to be impressed that you had that ball all them times and the most you can muster was 71 yards? Averagingly. So that means you had 70 this game, 65 this game, 40 this game. You got 75 here, 60 here, 54 here. You got a 100 game, 100-yard game, and then you backdoor a week after with 30 yards and 10 carries. Like, come on. See what you gonna get? 1,100. That's good. That's the most you're gonna come out my mouth. That was good. Okay. For a receiver to catch 1,000 yards, I think that's really good. I'm not putting you at a great. Why would I put you at great at a receiver when the great receivers are getting 1,300, 1,400? Now, you are on a better caliber because, again, 1,000 yards for receivers to me is still above average. It's not an average thing. You're average if you're only coming up with 900, 800 yards. That's average. That's a sucky average, but it's average. It keeps you on the team. But 1,000 yards is tough. 1,000 yards is tough because it's you and 3 other men on that team trying to catch a ball. You see what I'm saying? So that receiver that got that 1,000, I'm looking at how you got that 1,000. Are you dropping a lot of balls, or are you the third thought and you made the most of your catches for that 1,000? You see what I'm saying? Or are you the starter and you had 10 targets, but you only caught 4 balls? Why? Because when you watch the game, it's getting beat up by that corner when the ball should have kept going to the guy over here. See, let me break down numbers for you guys real quick when I look at receivers like that, right? We all look at Hollywood. Everybody thought he was, I'll tell you, hey, from the moment I saw that kid, I said, he can't catch a football. Oh, he can't, okay? Now, I watched the game, and it wasn't even Lamar Jackson, okay? I think it was Snoop. He was the quarterback. And he had Hollywood, and he had Rashad Bateman. Now, Rashad Bateman, I think Rashad was a rookie that year. The Rashad was my guy. I saw what he was doing in camps. I saw what he was doing when the season was. Okay, the next year, boy, that boy gonna really shine. He had an injury problem. Now I got to come for him like I come for everybody. He got an injury problem. But there was a game that I loved, and I started him, and it made me happy because I won, because I made the right decision. And why did I make the right decision? Well, here's the thing. I never understood why they looked at Hollywood as the number one when clearly it was Bateman at that time. Hollywood had four. Both had four receptions in that game, right? Hollywood had four receptions for like 35, 42 yards. Rashad Bateman had four catches for 68 yards. You see the big difference? Somebody did more, and mind you, Hollywood had more targets in that game than Bateman. I think if I'm not mistaken, Bateman that game either went 4 for 4 or he was 4 for 6. But Hollywood was 4 for 8. You see the difference, guys? Those numbers are what matters, okay? It's not the fact that you caught 8 balls. If you caught 8 balls off 12 targets, okay, off 10 targets, ooh, that's nice. I'd be damned if you went 8 for 8, but you know what I mean? But dude, if you caught 8 balls and you was forced that ball 15 times, like damn, like that's a lot. Like I get it, you being force fed, and it's not gonna. That's making your numbers look really bad. Okay, because all of those forced numbers still don't mean you're gonna end up with 80 or 100 yards receiving. They could have got 8 catches, right? You could have got 8 catches off 15 targets, off 60 yards. That's horrible. That's horrible. If you had 80 yards, I'd be loving that. That means you got 10 yards to carry. 10 yards of reception. 80 yards off 8 catches, okay, that means you are moving the chain off every catch. But 60 of 8, 15, that's horrible numbers. So, guys, that's the stuff you guys gonna get from me. I look at those type of numbers. I am going to tell you, you should not touch this player because he is not consistent in the game. I'm going to tell you, you need to grab this player because ain't nobody looking. Did you not see what the quarterback did last game when he decided to trust him? That's going to happen. Again, here's another example I give you. Russell Wilson, the year that I think the Seattle Seahawks really should have won another one, it's the year Will Dissly went down. I mean, there was no answer for the red zone for Russell Wilson and Will Dissly. And then Will Dissly went out. And you know what I did? Mind you, was drafted by me, put him on my bench. He was drafted by me in that draft. I either drafted him or I went to the waiver wire and snapped him up because I knew nobody would touch him. No matter what it was, I knew before week 1, I had DK Metcalf on my roster. He didn't play. I had him on the bench because why? I knew it was Tyler Lockett. I knew who the other target was. Basically, Metcalf was third on the food chain because Will Dissly was eating people. I mean, I was mad. I couldn't get him. He was snagged up after that first week when he showed him. Then he got hurt. And all I had to do was slip Metcalf right on in. And you know why I was happy about that? Because he did what I wanted as a rookie receiver who was getting minimal targets. He was getting like 4 or 5 targets in a game, and he was doing something with those 4 or 5 targets. Like I was getting like 8, 10 points off of 4 targets. And then Will Dissly went down. And now those targets went up for Metcalf. And now Metcalf gave me 15, 20 points because he's getting 7 to 8 targets or catches game now. You see what I'm saying? That is the type of stuff you have to be looking out for now in training camp, now in preseason. Watch preseason football. I don't care what the world tells you. Watch preseason football. Watch these third, fourth string and backup players. You need to watch them. Watch them. Mostly the backups because they're the guys or the rookies, really. But you need to watch preseason football. I'm telling you, it's gonna get you ready for that first draft. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna say this until I'm blue in the face. Never draft in fantasy football until the last week of preseason. Excuse me. That's when you draft. Do not draft during preseason. Wait, because nobody's gonna play in that last game. Let's cut people. So you can draft now. Don't draft in the first 2 games. Don't draft in training camp. Too many injuries happen. Now you're going to be mad. Don't do that to yourself, guys. Just wait. I think the only leagues that should draft before the third preseason game is anybody doing, what are those? not auction drafts, dynasty leagues. Why? Because though I believe, if I'm not mistaken, dynasty leagues begin right after the draft, right after the NFL draft. Because why? Those are about basically drafting those rookies. It's dynasty. That's what I haven't gotten into that yet. I think that might be a little out of my league right now. Hopefully one day I pick it up. But dynasty, I think, is the only thing that you should ever draft prior, because you have to get those rookies in the minute the draft is over. But outside of that, man, don't do it. Don't. Just wait. Just wait. Just wait. Take your league to wait. It's not like the players are going to go anywhere if you wait. So it's like the people act like players are going to run out. Like they're not going anywhere. It's a fake game. Calm down, people. Man. Woo. All right, let's get back to these running back tiers, man. I have to give y'all a little bit more history on fantasy football to do's and do nots. All right, tier 6, we have Deontay Foreman, Samaje P. Ryan, Jeff Wilson, Antonio Gibson, Zach Charbonnet, Devin Singletary, Zeke Elliott, Raheem Mostert, Kenneth Gainwell, Jared McKinnon, Jalen Warren, Devon Akane. I hope I said that right. Y'all let me know if I messed that up. Leonard Fournette and Cordell Patterson. Leonard Fournette, I might drop down to tier 7. I actually don't think he's going to get picked up by a team. Zeke could go to the Patriots if it looked good. I'm not sure. I haven't heard anything outside of the visit. So right now I'm going to keep him in tier group 6. If Zeke gets picked up by the Patriots or any type of team that can use him in the passing and rushing game, I will move him up in tier groups. I really will. Let's see. Tier group 7, we have Gus Edwards, Chuba Hubbard. And you know what? I wonder if they're going to rely on him more. He might be a steal. I'm still keeping him in tier group 7, but let's keep an eye on Chuba Hubbard, because depending on the route the Carolina Panthers are running, excuse me, got a little itch.